And I'm Sarah Tolson. Sorry, my screen is over here. It totally threw me off. We are back to do more Flow Designer stuff to build out the Mothership application, right?
Yep. Um, and I have to kick us off with a little bit of pain to start because I realized after last time that in fact I did get I'm pretty sure I got the code wrong for our coordinate rotation calculation.
Our last stream was a little hairy. It was more of a
Yeah.
winding path. So why don't you walk us through, remind us where we were at and why we need to put math in the Flow Designer.
So basically, we've got a coordinate plane that we are placing ships on, and um, essentially, ships can face different directions. Like you can rotate the ship about the axis. It can point down, up, left, or right. And so in in our logic, we have the direction and we have like the head cell that the ship is placed in. Last time I had an example. Wonder if I can. So let me share this browser window. So basically, you can take a ship and place it in a particular cell. Basically, this head cell here is we're tracking the head cell and we're tracking the direction. And so, depending on its rotation about the axis, the ship can be will be in a different direction. Um, hey, Jace, how's it going? So basically, there are rules for rotation in coordinate geometry, where we can basically determine what location a point would be in. So if I rotate, go away. If I rotate this point right here 90 degrees, then in the counterclockwise direction, then xy would become negative yx. And so this is going to make our math quite a bit easier to reason around than what I was doing previously. So
We go to Flow Designer.
we go to Flow Designer. So anyway, I went to Flow Designer. Loading.
Why is your internet so slow tonight?
I don't know.
At least
I
the air
don't like it.
conditioner's working.
It is. It kind of bothers me that the air conditioning is a topic of conversation in the last few episodes.
Look, I say it's working. I still have a fan blowing on me because like it works, but in the afternoon it can't keep up still. So yay, heat wave.
All right, so let's see. So this set flow variables is the one that we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. So basically what we want to do is first calculate the original with no rotation, and then we'll rotate it. So x, oh, I can't edit in a read only, so we have to hit the edit subflow. So let x equal to head x, I think it's going to be plus offset x.
This is based on the logic you saw on that you were showing on that other browser tab, right?
Yes. So basically, head x is the point that I would click to place the ship. That's the head of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And
So that's
then
the X part of the coordinate.
and the Yes, the x part of that coordinate. Head y is the y part of that coordinate.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the offset is basically each ship in the table. If I go to ship sets and I open up that Death Star under the default, so if I open up the Death Star, you'll see that the Death Star is made up of 4 different coordinates. One is the cell you click, which is offset 0, 0.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's one that is offset X, 1 to the right, but doesn't move the Y. One that moves the Y, which will be down, but doesn't move the X. And then the other one, which is 1, 1, which moves down 1 over 1. And so that gives you the 4 cells, which would be for the Death Star, this one, this one, this one, and this one.
So if it was like just a straight ship, it would be like 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4.
So this would be 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4. It's basically a relative coordinate system.
And ours just looks a little funky because we had to be fancy and do something that was not linear.
Absolutely. So basically what we're going to do is calculate the actual xy for this coordinate, which is going to be the head x plus the offset x, and the y coordinate is going to be the head y plus the offset y. So now we have our xy coordinate with no rotation. So in order to compute in the down direction, we're just going to return our normal x. To return in the up direction, let's actually do right next, because right would be rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise.
Mm-hmm.
So in a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation, our x coordinate becomes negative y. So we're going to return negative y for the right. See how this is so much better than what I had last time?
If you say so.
So in the up direction, which is 180 counterclockwise, our x position becomes negative x.
Mm-hmm.
Which you can, if you think about it in the down direction,
Mm-hmm.
an x offset, if I rotated it this way, is going to be to the left now.
Yeah. Are you going to put any comments in your code, or are you just going to leave us all guessing?
I'm just going to leave us all guessing. And then the left direction is essentially rotating 90, 180, 270. Yeah, 270.
Mm-hmm.
So in 270, the x position becomes negative y. I keep clicking on the wrong one. Was that right? So a 90 becomes negative y, and a 270 becomes negative y as well? Oh, 270 counterclockwise becomes positive y. That feels better, because they should be opposites of one another. Okay. So now I can copy this. We're gonna paste it here. And then I have to do the same rules, but for the y for the y coordinate instead, because we're setting coordinate x and coordinate y.
Jace asked if you're going to have to do this again when the moves are invalid.
Am I going to have to do this again when the moves are invalid? I don't know what you mean on that one.
Like if they make an invalid move, I guess, is it going to have to run these calculations?
So basically, what happens is if we have an invalid placement, then we'll have some sort of placement collision detected. If we have some sort of detection, which I may have to add some addition. So essentially, what's going to happen is if I attempt, we're going to set this up so that if there is an existing ship, I may have to add some additional pieces to this flow. But if the ship has already been placed, it will delete those and move it. If it's an invalid placement, then it'll delete all the work it's done. So yeah, we may have to think through a couple things on that.
It's a lot of
For
math.
coordinate y in the down direction is just going to be y. In the up direction, or in the right direction, which is counter 90, y becomes x. In the 180, y becomes negative y. And in the left direction, which is counter 270, it becomes negative x.
Question.
Yeah.
So we're doing this in the script here. Would it be possible, since we may have to use this logic multiple times, to throw it in the script include and just reference the script include? Or
Yeah,
is the
absolutely.
logic okay? Because I mean, that way you only have to.
In this particular case, these two scripts are different.
Yeah.
One
That
is
was my
returning
next question was, or are they different?
One is returning the x coordinate, one is returning the y coordinate. So in this scenario, the x coordinate would be y, but the y coordinate would be negative x. So they're not going to return, those two functions will not be returning the same values. So these are not the same functions at all. They're two different functions, and I don't think we're going to reuse them anywhere else because the only time we have to worry about ship rotation is when we're placing it. But if we were going to reuse it, yes, we could put it into a script include and reuse it there. All right, so let's see. So for each item in the ship cell, we determine if there is a collision. Now, if there's a collision, then we're going to delete all the records. And end the subflow. Well,
basically undo everything that we did to build that up.
Yes. Basically, you can't place that ship. So if there's a collision, do that. Or if this is where we're going to have to add to this a little bit because Jace made me realize that there are a couple other scenarios we have to handle here. Let's see. Where is it?
Gotta love this community effort.
Where's my flow variables? Oh, there they are. Flow variables. Okay, so also, if coordinate x is less than 0, this doesn't work. That means it's out of bounds on the left-hand side of the board. Or
in that first quadrant of the XY graph, which
if coordinate x is greater than, how many did I do in the original game?
You did 10, I thought.
Yeah.
It was a 10 by 10 board.
Yeah, we did a 10 by 10 board. So let's stick with that for now. We can always potentially property that one later or something along those lines. So
Oh, so you can change the size
wait,
of your board.
a 0th index, so it's greater than 9. 9. So 9 is the far right side of the board.
Yep. 0 is the left side of the board.
Or if coordinate y is less than 0, or coordinate y is greater than 9.
And will this count for any of the points on the ship?
Yes. So this is occurring for each item in the ship cell record. For each ship cell record. So basically, for each of these records, it's going to execute this logic. If any of these cells are either a collision with another ship or out of bounds, then the ship being placed and all of its related values are deleted from the board, and the action is treated as an invalid placement.
So I saw where you just set it up to make sure that it is the coordinates are all actually on the board, but where are you setting it up to handle a collision with another ship?
So that is happening, and we set this up last time using the lookup ship cell records.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just wanted to verify because that wasn't right here with what you just did.
Or sorry, lookup game cell record.
Okay.
So we're going to look up. We're running a lookup to see if there is an existing game cell record that is already occupied for this player in this game, in the row, in the column. So if there's already a record, then we are counting it as a collision. Or if it meets any of these other criteria, then it's considered out of bounds. If any of these criteria are true, then that ship placement cannot happen. And for each of the game cells we just created, we're going to delete them, and we're going to update the game command to error, and we're going to create an error event. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay.
We have a question from MHZ Prayer. Does a user have to specify the vertical or horizontal orientation of the ship before placing it?
Yes. So basically, from the server side standpoint, when you issue a command for place ship, you will set the coordinate X and coordinate Y, which is the head cell of the ship that you click. So when you click on the board, that's where you're placing it. The ship being placed and the direction or orientation. So you will set those 4 properties, and those 4 properties are what this flow is going to use. Else we create the game cell record and continue the for each. This should be in the for each. Now, this needs to be outside of the for each, I think. Yeah.
I love that you can just drag and drop basically your block statements to where they need to go.
Yeah, that needs to be outside of, because that'll end the flow. Else, create the game record, and then we'll update the stuff. I don't know. Maybe that belongs in the else statement. Let's stick it in the else statement. Let's stick all that together. So if placement, then do that. Else, do that. And there was one other I may need to rework a little bit of that logic for each item, because there's another scenario here we have to account for, and that is hopefully this doesn't break anything. Let's see. Yeah, I'm basing all that off of inputs. That one might work. We'll have to explore that one. Let's see. I need to look up game cell records, because this ship may already be placed, and we can't place it twice.
You could move it though. Right?
Correct. So if this game and player is this player, and ship is the ship we're placing, order doesn't matter, then we'll do a for each, and that's going to be the game cell records. For each game cell record, we're going to delete that game cell record. So basically, if a ship already exists, and we can add an annotation here.
Flow Designer's way of commenting your code.
Delete all for this ship. Ew. Delete the heck. All cell records for this ship. It was already placed. To move it. And of course, I could subflow that to make it a little more clear. But again, we're not going for picture perfect on this. We're going for functioning.
But if we were going for picture perfect, you would subflow it. And is that just a visual thing?
Yeah, if I was going for picture perfect here, I would create a subflow to delete those, and then I would add the subflow in here, and basically that would make the logic a little clearer. It would make it a little bit easier to understand, and I wouldn't have to add this annotation that honestly still kind of feels out of place. Like it gives you an idea of what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't tell you. You know how in code you'll usually do like you'll do like a start comment and an end comment to denote a specific block that's doing something. You kind of can't do that here. So a subflow would be a much better way of going about it, but I'm kind of taking the lazy approach here.
No, honestly, I only do my start comment. I don't do it in comment.
So that's going to delete all the game cells
Okay.
for one that was already placed. Now, the one thing that may have changed here is that my script is fd data dot. Yeah. So this is no longer the 3. And this is one of the big issues that I have with the way Flow Designer does its variable naming. This is one of my greatest frustrations with it, is that because we changed the order of the um, of the actions,
Mm-hmm.
the variable names themselves have changed. It's no longer the number 3 for each anymore. Now it's the number 6 for each. So now I have to go back into this code and edit these variable names. And
Oh,
it's,
that's a pain.
yeah, I wish that they had done like a sysid or some kind of unique identifier. Like almost anything would have been better
Mhm.
than basing the name on the order of your flow actions. Now, one thing is that it does kind of dissuade you from using scripts, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So it's not a huge problem, but it is something that you need to be aware of,
Mhm.
um, because if you are using the FD data in scripts a lot in your flows, it's going to make it very vulnerable to change. Changes will readily break your flows. And so it's best to avoid scripting as much as humanly possible. And when you do script, isolate it into subflows where you can more readily isolate the changes. And this is where my lazy practice here could really, really bite me if I'm not careful.
So it's better to break up your flows and use the subflows for that reason.
It really is. It really makes for a better flow if you kind of build up your functionality. It really does make it more resilient to change. Um, and somebody with more experience on Flow Designer may have some better tips around how to do that. But um, now, what I will say is that typically, your bound when you bind the data pill,
Mhm.
the data pills will update. Like you'll notice that none of our data pills have broken.
But when you're using the scripts, it's when you write it, it's written, and it's not going to auto. That makes sense for the way the tool is
Yeah,
constructed. It kind of sucks though.
yeah,
But
it kind of sucks, but as long as you're aware of it, you know to look out for it.
so, will
And
we call this a best practice?
huh?
Do we call it a best practice to try and put some of your logic into the subflows to keep things
Eh,
clean?
I'm really reluctant to tag anything as a best practice because
So maybe a
we're
better
always
practice.
learning. Yeah, we're always learning better practices, and we're always learning new things and updating those practices. Um, but yeah, I mean, from from what I have heard from other folks who have used Flow Designer a lot more than I have, most of the recommendations that I have heard is that basically you should really be leveraging subflows as much as possible. That it really cleans up your flows overall. It helps you build a library of logic that's reusable. And it just does a better job overall of keeping your flows organized, readable and clear.
And you know how we are about readable code.
We
So
don't care one iota. Screw the next guy.
oh my God, that is the exact opposite of what I do, and you know it. I love it because and this is in part your teaching, in part my own perfectionism and OCD, but like when I write code, Like I have code for this one client I'm working with that was something I wrote like 3 months ago, and they're like, "Hey, we need to make this change to it." Go back to it. I've got all of my logic encapsulated into functions, both in the server script and in the client script of this widget. And I've got it all labeled so I know exactly what it does. And it's like, oh, okay, I just need to go down here and do the thing. And it was like, thanks, past self. So, like, not only are you doing your fellow developers a favor, but you know at some point you're going to have to dive into that. And if you're dealing with a bunch of spaghetti code that you haven't labeled, you're really shooting yourself in the foot.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I've now created a game.
Yep.
And it's got our players, our able tutor player, and we've got some game event. So we're in the right direction. Now, what I'm going to do is Abel is going to place a ship. And we're going to place the Death Star at the 0, coordinate. And it's going to be the Death Star. And it's going to be in the straightforward down direction.
The easiest, like, out of box sort of situation we can do.
Yep. All right. So then, because I don't have this stuff triggered to, because I don't have triggers set up, I'm going to have to select it manually and run test and see what happens. I really need to like do a display value on these game commands.
You really need to.
There was an internal server error executing the subflow. That is spectacular. It was so badly done that the flow was just like, nah.
So it's not going to give you like the steps we've seen the other time we were testing, because it was that badly foobarred.
It died. Invalid referenced FD3 for each item. Okay, we got progress.
You didn't bring down prods. We're doing okay.
I did update it, right? It
Oh,
didn't
no.
update.
Why didn't it update it?
That's dumb. FD data dot 6 for each.
Yep. So make sure to save it this time. Any ideas why you think it didn't save?
I may have only done it on the one. Maybe that's why.
It looks like
this
you
one's
did
good.
it on that one. That's exactly what you did. So you got to recheck and make sure that when you move something, that all the places it touches, you actually are updating that.
But at least it has that check in place.
What?
At least it has some kind of check in place. Like it told me that was a bad variable. I mean, that wouldn't help you if there was a for each in that same place. So it wouldn't cover all your cases, but it's better than nothing.
So now we're going to do it again.
Run test.
We're going to get test steps this time?
Hopefully. Hopefully it's not an internal server error.
Oh, look at there.
All right. So this one, for each setup. Uh-oh. We had a collision.
What's it colliding with? By the way, tonight's live stream is brought to you by this fidget toy. Like a pop thing, but it's a ball.
So let's see.
Just so y'all are aware.
Error message should be empty, because an empty one means I found something. No record found is empty. NQ1 is less than 0. NQ1 is greater than 9. NQ1. What on earth is NQ? Let's check them flow variables. What do we got? Runtime value, coordinate X, coordinate Y. Okay, so the first one completed. That one went through fine. However, yeah, that's not how that's supposed to go. Not even remotely close. We did get a ship fail. Still not how it's supposed to go, though. So we're going to get rid of that mess. And I do need to add another related list here. Oh, no, I don't. Game cells is there.
I like how you totally ignored my commentary about my fidget toy.
Sorry, I'm like really zoned in.
I see that. And I was so zoned in, I went back and I was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be watching the chat. I'm even less focused than normally tonight because I'm fighting off a cold. So, yeah.
So this one was the one that decided that it was out of bounds.
Okay.
Placement collision detected is out of bounds. Is empty in queue. Zero is not less than 0. 0 is not greater than 9. Zero is not less than 0. 0 is not greater than 9. Placement collision is detected or out of bounds. Is there an error? Let's see. There was no error message for some reason.
So what does that mean?
Game, player, row.
This is that hardcore troubleshooting.
Let's see.
Which at least this gives you a little more than
So first of all, let me take care of one specific problem.
What problem is that?
The problem that we were generating a whole bunch of unnecessary events because we were doing it within the repeat, which was a whole lot of no bueno.
We only want to generate the events that we actually need.
What's that catchphrase we've been saying?
The only one that comes to mind that I think they were saying was the whole, I don't do things the smart way.
No, I don't do things the smart way.
I don't know. Maybe this qualifies as a low-code situation.
It might be a low-code situation. All right, let's see. Create the game cell record. Coordinate X. Coordinate. Ooh, wait a second. That should not be the input. That should be the... flow variables coordinate X. I wonder if that may have contributed. I don't know. We'll try it. That was the... I found a couple problems in there, so let's see if we're solving those problems.
Multiple knots in that.
Loading. Okay, there we go.
So what were the different problems you ran into here?
So first of all, I had the update game command and the create event record inside the else, which ultimately was inside the for loop. So that's why I was generating a bunch of extra events that weren't supposed to happen. And the other problem I found was that when I was creating the game cell record, my column field was being set to the input, to the subflow input X, not our calculated flow variable.
Gotta make sure you pick the right data fill.
So both of those would create problems.
All right, so now it's gonna work, right?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna summon all of my optimism. It's gonna work this time. I believe in the heart of the cards.
Well, let's see what happened. All right. Good news is we have only one game event.
Okay.
And it does say the ship was placed, so we're looking good.
All right.
There are 4 game cells for the Death Star. It is at 00, 01, 10, and 11. Though that's correct. That is where it should be.
Okay.
So that scenario worked. Now we're going to simulate another command.
What's this one going to do?
Same thing. Basically, this is going to behave as Able Tutor moving the Death Star. So he's going. It's still going to be the place ship command, but instead we'll place it at 3. Let's say 3-5. And we'll keep it in the down direction because we don't want to. We're not testing rotations yet.
We're going to move it to the far side of Endor and wait until it's called for.
All right. So now we need to test that latest one.
It's going to work.
Processing.
Everybody in the chat is believing in you.
When I refresh this, we should still have 4, and we do. And it has moved. So we placed it at 3-5, which means we should have 3-5, 3-6, 4-5, and 4-6.
All right, it works.
It's working. All right, so now let's try rotating it.
Now, I'm going to give you a time check. We have about 15 minutes left.
Yes. Okay. Now, I'm going to just reuse the same one for now.
Okay.
We're going to rotate it to the right.
Now we're testing to see if it will change those coordinates to...
Yeah. So now it should rotate to the right.
It's a square, though.
Yeah. You can still rotate a square.
I mean, yeah, but
so basically, if I had a square, I'd be clicking on this cell.
The head cell will move.
Right.
So the numbers
instead of being the top left, if I rotate it to the right, it'll be the bottom left cell.
Yeah.
The head cell will be the bottom left now.
Again, I'm hopped up on cold medicine and cannot be trusted.
And that did not work. That failed miserably.
And no, because you didn't get the internal server error, so it failed. It didn't fail miserably.
So we deleted, which is good. Let's see. Flow variables. 4, -6. Well, that did not work.
Yeah. Wait, is the Y coordinate correct? Because obviously the X isn't.
The Y, hard to tell. Let's see. I placed it in 3-5 the offset values were I'm not sure. However, mess with the record watcher. Yes, I love the record watcher. Super fun.
I love this suggestion right here.
Oh, regarding the Great Shot Kid, that was 1 in a million. I have to share this one real quick.
You referenced this in your slide deck, didn't you?
This was in the lab that I presented on this at Knowledge.
As a Star Wars fan, I was so friggin' proud of you and how you nailed all the references in that presentation. I was like, yes.
The last section of the lab, you finish up the stuff that is required to be able to completely take all the turns and blow up the Death Star. And so once you complete it, this was the next slide. It's great.
All right, so we're borked and we don't know why. Did it just turn it into, like, if it was 6, it made the number negative?
Pretty much.
Well,
So what I'm wondering is if my maths, if my rotation needs to be applied. Because let's see. If it were 0, 0, and I rotate about the point, then
because do you have a check in there already? I thought we had a check in there already that basically if placing it into it wasn't a negative space, it would let you do that.
Well, yeah, and that's why I didn't get a ship. That's why it got completely deleted out. But what I'm thinking is that my XY rotation needs to actually be applied to the offset. So basically, instead of this one, because let's see, this would be 0, 1, and if I were to rotate it, it would be 1, 0. This one, if I were to rotate it, goes from 1, 1 to 1, -1. Yeah, I think I need to apply it to the offset. I think the issue is in my maths. So basically,
Did you see Kevin's comment on pre-rotating the ship before attempting placement, like 2 discrete operations as a strategy?
rotate first. Let's see. Um, Let's see. If I were to rotate from here. So I think I think the issue is that I need to rotate the relative coordinate and then apply that. I think I need to rotate the offset. The question is, so if I did it that way, what I would end up with for the down direction, which is our neutral, the x coordinate is going to just be head x plus offset x. The right direction Gosh, this is tough.
Andrew Barnes asks, what do you want it to be and what is it now?
Well, let's see if we can figure that out.
Well,
all right, so if I were to do it here, this one would be 1 0 1 0 1 3. Okay, so that would be 1 3. This one would be 1 4 2 3 2 4. Now, if I were to rotate this, then 1 4. So 1 4 would become 2 3. 2 3 would rotate up here to 1 2. One 3, of course, maps to itself because that one's not going to move. And then 2 4 is going to map to what's that? 0 1 2 2 2. And that's going to be 2 4. Yeah, I like the recommendation to cut it out on a piece of paper and rotate it on a grid aligned paper.
I didn't want to interrupt your thinking because I've been doing that the entire past hour, but I've got my little notebook out here and I was like, it's got like a dot grid in it. I was sitting there like, we may need to do some more figuring on this.
Or let me think about this in terms of offset values to see if that clears anything up. That's going to be 0, 1. This is going to be 1, 0. Those X. And this one's going to be 1, 1. And the end result of it would be 0, 0 still becomes 0, 0. And then 0, 1 is going to rotate to 1, 0. And then 1, 0 is going to rotate to 0, -1. And then 1, 1 is going to rotate up to 1, -1.
Andrew Barnes says, for math around a pivot point, calculate how far the thing is from the pivot and then apply that to the new position. The direction of the math depends on the left or right rotational.
For math around a pivot point, calculate how far the thing is from the pivot and then apply that to the new position.
Is there echo in here?
I have to say it out loud.
Oh, I know. You're thinking out loud. That doesn't mean I'm not going to give you a hard time about it.
Then apply that to the new position.
GPT says, Kevin Clark asked ChatGPT. Right, no change, up, swap and negate Y, offset by head, left, negate both, offset by head, down, swap and negate X, offset by head.
So in this one, this point originally goes down 1, but instead it's going to go right 1.
Just saying, if somebody had backed up their code, we wouldn't be in this pickle.
Yeah. Actually, let me see something because maybe, just maybe. Code creative. Because I could have swore I had this one. 3 branches. This one's the bigger one.
Now, what are you doing now?
Well, there is a chance.
Are you taking my heckling to heart?
Yes.
You take me entirely too seriously more often than you should.
That's go to file. I don't want that. What I want is to search my code for head X. Oh, well, that sucks. That I need it now.
What does that say?
It says that my code is being indexed. Try again in a few minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Imagine a rotation point of 3, 3. Then you make relative points around that and math out what happens when you rotate those around the 3, 3 point. Then you can craft the algo from how to transform. Let's see. See, the problem is that I've already done this, and if I could just get access to it. Let's see. Let me try to get this Git repository down real quick. Could not see the numbers clear enough.
Yeah, it is pretty tiny, come to think of it.
I will zoom those in. Oh, do I already have that one? Okay, I'm going to check something real quick in VS Code. I'm going to see if I can search for it. Find head X. Gosh, this is driving me up a wall. Yeah, we're probably going to have to take this one offline.
We can come back with a solution and next week and review it. Which I hate.
I know I've got the solution somewhere, and I've already put the work to figure it out, and my brain's having a hard time dialing it in. And the last time I did it manually. So, like, I actually physically plotted it down and rotated things, and did what some of the folks were suggesting. But yeah, I'll take this one offline and try to get that algorithm figured out. But we're almost, we've almost got the place ship working.
So next time we should be able to go through finishing up that flow, correct? And then moving on to, is it another piece of flow that we still need to work on?
Yeah, the take turn.
Yep. So they're not
taking turns. Part.
Yep. So they're taking turns and not doing it at the same time and all that kind of stuff.
So why is there a cross scope privilege?
There's always a cross scope privilege. It's one of my least favorite error messages.
I'm gonna ignore that one for now.
can't ignore your cross-scope messages.
So we'll commit that. I am so mad that this will not index. Close. All right, yeah, we'll take this offline and I'll try to figure out what my algorithm was for this previously.
But we got the initial placement working. We just got to get the rotation stuff nailed. So we've made
yeah. And I think once I think the rest of the flow is good. I think we got the rest of it dialed in. It seems to be handling the other edge cases correctly. And once we get the XY coordinate calculation correct, that one should work. So we can dig back into that one offline and come back next time, hopefully with a solution working. I may even just implement it offline and we can just recap next time.
Yeah.
That way next time we can just dive straight into the take turn, because that one's way more interesting anyway.
Okay, so have we reached our stopping point for the evening, sir?
I think so.
All right, we're making progress. We're getting through it. I'm just dying for the UI that we're going to build, but we'll get
I know. I just I want to sit down and just build all the rest of the back end so we can just jump to UI. Previously on Code Creative.
Yep.
Oh! All right, so that will I think that'll do us for tonight.
All right. Y'all have a good evening, and we will hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us. Hope to see you next time.
All right. Have a good night.